Hi folks, welcome to another episode of NYC CNC. This is my new Emco Maximat V13 lathe. I've outgrown my Micromark 7-inch lathe and was looking for a bigger machine. So I did the research on the typical sort of American-made suspects, the Hardings, the Monarchs, Harrisons, Clausings, and then I came across this Emco V13, and they're normally green. This one's been painted blue, and the green color I thought was actually really cool. So I sort of said, well, let's just see what I can find available that's a good price, it makes sense. And long story short, I found a V13 up in Rhode Island, hopped in the truck to go take a look, and the guy called me and said he'd sold it. So I sort of started over, ended up looking at a Harding, which I thought was going to be a great deal, but it was missing some important stuff. And then this one turned up. The downside to this machine was that it was, I had to buy it sight unseen. It was out of state, too far to drive to see, and it was painted blue, which I kind of liked the green. But I did the research, talked to the guy, felt comfortable as one could buying it sight unseen. And as I'll show you, it came with a lot of accessories and the price was right. So I pulled the trigger and it just showed up a few days ago. So far, really happy with it. Haven't gotten it powered up yet, which is obviously a very, very important step, but otherwise super cool, super excited. It's an awesome machine. I've read a lot of good things about them, and I thought I'd give a quick overview today of the machine and what some of the plans are. I started taking the cross feet apart. The compound needed some cleanup work on it, and that's really the theme to this lathe in general. It seems to be in pretty good shape. It's just got some grime on it. It was formerly in the repair shop of a pharmaceutical factory down south, so I don't think it had production style use to it, and a lot of the things seem to be well maintained. Up on top of the lathe, I've got some of the cross feed parts taken apart, and then just for kicks, I thought it would be funny to show. Here's my A to Z CNC quick change tool post for my 7-inch lathe, and here's the new one for the Emco lathe. So super excited about the new tooling. As you can see, it's pretty beefy. One of the reasons I pulled the trigger on this, even though it was sight unseen, is it came with 7 chucks, which I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. Combination of 3 and 4 jaws, Emco and Atlas branded as well. It also included a whole box of change gears, and if you've researched these lathes, you'll know that those can be really important and a bit difficult to find, as well as parts in general for this machine. Also included some other miscellaneous accessories I've got laid out here. Looks like a dog follower, a carriage stop, some wrenches, some chuck jaws. There's a small steady rest here, or excuse me, a small dead center here, and I've got the larger dead center in the spindle right now. And the spindle itself is what's called a D14 cam lock. They're a really accurate, really fast way of changing your chucks, which I was very attracted to relative to a typical threaded style. One of the first things I wanted to do was measure the spindle run out and just see if I found anything suspicious. So we'll take our center out of here, grab the dial test indicator. It might be a little tricky to see based on the camera angle, but as best I can tell, it's running out maybe 1 or 2 tenths of one of the index marks. So that's, and remember the marks here are half thou marks. So I think maybe it's 2/10 run out. I don't know if this is the best way to do a test or how conclusive this is. And this is just a quick setup, but I thought, well, that's a good sign at least for starters. The final thing I wanted to cover today was leveling the lathe. The lathe doesn't have to be leveled relative to Earth's center of gravity. It needs to be level across the length of the bed. That way you don't end up twisting the bed by having one corner or one side causing stresses along the length of it. So the way we do that is we'll use a precision level and we'll measure the levelness on both sides to see if they're relatively equal. I've never really done this before, and I'm a little nervous about making sure the lathe stays in level. It's very important to precision work. So if anyone of you viewers have any feedback, I would love to hear recommendations. I'm fortunate enough to have this stair at level that my grandfather gave me a few years back. And it's the coolest thing to me when I'm able to take tools like this that have been in the family and put them to use. So I've got a set of 1, 2, 3 blocks that are clean, and what we're going to do is set them up here and take a look. So here's the chuck. Here's my set of 1, 2, 3 blocks. We'll lay the level across it, and we'll let the bubble settle. And what we should see is that the bubble is just in between the first and the second mark. What I want to see is where does that bubble lie when we move it to the other end of the bed. Okay, the level is now at the other end of the lathe bed, and as you can see, the bubble is just one red tick mark inside of where it was on the other end of the lathe. I need to take a look at what the actual measurement ticks are. I think they're 5 thousandths, so that means I've got 5 thousandths of twist across the 3 feet of the lathe bed. I'm not sure if that's acceptable. I need to think about that and shim it or make some adjustments, but it's okay. I feel good enough now that I'm not at least introducing major stresses or problems into the machine. Although if any of you viewers out there feel differently, please, I'm all ears, as I'm relatively new to this type of a lathe and certainly never really leveled one before. But that's all for now, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up, comment below, share it. Otherwise, you'll certainly be seeing more of this machine in the future. Really looking forward to making some parts, and take care. Thanks, folks.